Sangaya. And the greater community of all life. We stand on the shoulders of giants. It's an interesting phrase, shoulders of giants. We stand on the shoulders of people who devoted their lives to waking up. Ruth Dennison was in my life for something like 41 years. It's a long time. A long time, and poof, it was gone. So in this moment, I'd like to call to the altar of our hearts, Ruth Dennison. And please think of your own teachers, your own mentors, the people who've held you aloft in your lifetime. When I think of this, I always think of my fifth grade teacher in elementary school. Wow, Mrs. McLagan. Long gone, of course. Changed my life. I left a violently abusive Catholic school and entered the public schools in Montreal and Quebec. What a change. It was amazing. My father sold Batman comics and Playboy in a distribution to Montreal. The Catholic Women's League picked that up, and my family became ostracized, objects of hate and violence. And the worst part was the Batman. They were most offended by Batman. Anyway, Mrs. McLagan. So think of your own mentors, teachers, people who have saved you in this lifetime. And I dedicate my practice to them. So let's find a comfortable, upright posture. If it happens that you have to lie down, then hold an arm up, bend an arm at the elbow or something, because it helps keep us awake. And then let's drop into the body. Let's become aware of where the body makes contact with the chair or the cushion or the floor. Notice the life everywhere that clothing touches your body. There is awareness and there's this livingness. And the body breathes. What if you'd never been in this body before? The breathing would be something really interesting. It breathes all by itself. Each breath has a beginning, a rising to fullness, and then an ending. A decline and then an ending. Of course, the mind may well wander. The hindrances may show up. Desire and aversion and restlessness, and sloth and torpor and doubt. And we open to it all, using the sensations of breathing as a home base. Mindfulness has a life of its own. Sometimes there will be a wandering mind that goes on for some time. Maybe it's an obsession or a worry or a desire, a rehashing of an old conversation or a planning of a future one. Maybe it's a rumination about some part of an environmental catastrophe or a political catastrophe. And the mind becomes all embroiled in itself. It thinks it's solving the problem. And then mindfulness appears and illuminates the entirety of it as a thought, as a fantasy, as a story. And in that moment, it's gone. And what's there is awareness, presence. And because we have undertaken a practice, mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing, it's clear what to do. Then there's this choice to once again turn toward in-breathing and out-breathing, to the actual sensations of in-breathing and out-breathing. And to rest there. To remain there, to abide there. In this way, one breath at a time, we relinquish the past and future. We relinquish solving the problem. And we rest back in the arms of love. We rest back in the present moment, wide awake. there is a certain effort that we make. It's actually the sixth aspect, the sixth facet of the Eightfold Path. It's the effort to restrain unwholesome states, to restrain the wandering mind, to restrain greed, hatred, and ignorance. And once they're absent, it's the effort, subtle effort, to persist in being without them. And there's the effort to bring into being wholesome states, to cultivate mindfulness, to remember to be present, to abide in and cultivate concentration, to bring the mind more fully into anything that it's attending to intend concentration, to bring into being curiosity and energy and persistence, tranquility, equanimity, and joy. And then once they're in existence, to keep them going. For this time, at this time, in this moment, we get to really let go of all self-improvement. Let go of planning the day. Let go of being responsible. Resting back in simply being. Abiding, resting in the simple fact of breathing, in the simple fact of the mind wandering. And please let's now reflect upon the reality of being human, taking birth, living a lifetime, passing away. And the fact of longing to be happy, longing to feel and know love, to be love and loving. And we can use our cognitive functions to think some thoughts which are loving. That primary mantra, I love you, with your name at the end. Or what if you could, in this moment, hold yourself as an infant? What would you like to say? What would you like to hear? I'm so glad you were born. I will always do my best to take care of you. Wishing for yourself, may I be deeply content and happy. And not just the happiness of mood, but happy in that sense of truly having what we really want. May my life become one great sigh of gratitude. May I remember my true great nature. And thinking of someone that it's easy to love right now. Wish them well in whatever ways are appropriate for you. Maybe surround them in golden or white light. Imagine them content, happy, at ease. Imagine them free from all forms of suffering, awake. And in a few moments, we'll be parting from one another and going off into the world. What about making the intention that whenever you remember, on the in-breath, wish yourself well. And on the out-breath, whoever you're with, wish them well. It could be that you're with a pet, or you're on a Zoom call with somebody, or you're taking care of your elderly parent or child. Wish them well. Recognize the inherent transitoriness of all relationships. The preciousness of this moment. And please now, let us bring awareness into the whole body, into the feet and the legs, into the pelvis, and all the organs deep, nestled in the pelvis, the sacrum and the spine, the back and shoulders, the fingers and hands and arms, the chest, making room for everything that happens in this body. The neck and the jaw, and the cheeks and the lips, and the eyes and the forehead and the scalp and the ears. Notice temperature, Coolness here, warmth there. And bringing awareness into the eyes and the intention to open the eyes, and then letting that happen. And notice that your eyes are open and something really remarkable happens. Seeing. Seeing, and we can see with the eyes of blessing. Here are my friends again. Wish them well. Some of us on this screen are inevitably undergoing medical treatment, have some really big diagnosis. Or in my case, in the constant manipulation of blood pressure medicines. I'm a meditation teacher. I should be able to regulate my blood pressure. I can to some degree. Genetics. So we can look at each other as friends on a journey. Quite the ride, isn't it? I'm having an unusual for this location experience this morning. I thought I would, I turned down the heater last night thinking I'll turn it on when I get up. Well, I did, and it heats up slowly. So this morning I'm cold, or there is cold. This side of my body toward the window is quite cold. This side is pretty neutral. Familiar old feeling. I grew up in Montreal, so cold is really an old friend. So I'd like to invite you now, announcements. Do I have an announcement? I guess Mary Stankiewicz is coming on Saturday. And all the other classes are continuing. Kate Staples is teaching on Friday night. And anytime you want to practice generosity, anytime you're feeling like it would be great to write a check or use my credit card online, if you're missing if you haven't been on Amazon in a day, you can always go to the portlandinsight.org website and feel really good about participating in that, supporting that organization, which supports so many people. So, what's up with you? What did you discover in this morning's meditation? And we enter the meditation of speaking and listening. Speaking and hearing. When you're listening, be aware of your buttocks in the chair as well as hearing. Be aware of breathing as well as hearing. And then if you're speaking, maybe there's anxiety or maybe there's excitement, but aware of it all.
Jim, something came up for me.
Hi, Jim.
I'm inside now. It's cold outside. The You said many times, including today, about the value in just saying how I love myself, that I'm a good person, something along that line, and which I appreciate because I think maybe in the olden days, like before I started tuning in to the Buddhist Broadcasting Network, I sort of thought, well, you're supposed to love other people, not yourself. But now that I'm embracing that idea, I'm trying to reconcile it with the fact that in the past, my actions have caused pain and harm to other people, and so I don't think of a good person as somebody who's causing pain and harm to somebody else. And I'm trying to reconcile that, and maybe you could help me out with that.
I can make a stab at it.
Surely you've heard somebody else in the past.
No, you're the first, actually. You always knew you were special. So I've tried to put this back onto onto the multiple people. Would you please raise your hand if you've acted unskillfully and badly in the past and you've hurt people rather badly? It's the human condition. I so wish, makes me sad to think of it, I so wish someone, I wish there'd been a class in high school on how to break up with somebody and to do it skillfully, to go to them and to face them, to not use a text, which is now the thing, but to go and acknowledge, this is over for me, and I need to go do something else. But I was so unskillful in several cases, and it was a mess. And I looked for one of my college girlfriends. I tried to find her online, and because I'd so like to make amends. I was such a shit. And thoughtless and hurtful, and it feels bad. And I learned, and she learned, and we come into this world with so much greed, hatred, and ignorance, and our education is so poor. Like nonviolent communication ought to be taught in grade 2. We should start there. And so to love ourselves is to forgive ourselves and to realize, well, I did that, and I'm very cognizant of it, and there's no guilt is of no use. Moral shame is useful, which is I did that and it felt bad and feels bad, and I never want to do it again. But to love ourselves in our extraordinary flawedness, because we are. And I presume that I continue to be unskillful and imperfect in relationships, and selfish. And the task is to accept that in ourselves and to make the intention to do it less and less. Does that any help, Jim?
Well, it's helped, but it raises, you said, I think one thing you just said is to forgive ourselves. And I guess I am struggling with that idea, sort of thinking that forgiveness can only come from the person that
Excellent. Thank you. Forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness is there's a great book on forgiveness called Forgive for Good by Fred Luskin. I highly recommend it. I've taught it at PIMC in one of these classes at least twice, and people will read the first chapter and discover that their life changes. But he says that forgiveness is reinstating the capacity to live happily in the present moment. And it's acknowledging, recognizing the past is over. It's gone. It does not exist except in memory, mine and others. And forgiveness is letting go of that clenchedness that we have of holding on to something, and like forgiving another. If someone has done something really bad to you or to me or to any of us in the past, and we can go to our deathbed clenched about that person, they did this, they did that. Or we can learn to realize, oh, I have a grievance story about that. I have a story that I tell myself about how this person did this bad thing and it hurt me, and maybe I found some other people who have a similar story, and then we form a victims club. And then it makes sense to get together with others who have the same injury, but the purpose of it is to get through it and forgive it and let go of it. Doesn't mean forget it, but it means to stop. The Buddha talks about resentment as being, to cherish resentment is like reaching into a fire and picking up a burning coal. And it's like, I'm going to throw this at that person. And meanwhile, my hand is getting totally seared. So forgiveness has to do also with letting the past be the past and keeping our boundaries. And it doesn't mean it's not forgiving and forgetting. That's absurd. Forgiving and remembering, but letting go of the resentment.
Thank you.
And forgiving, it's so essential that we forgive ourselves, because we've done these. We do such ignorant things in our youth, and actually at any time in our lives we can fall into greed, hatred, and ignorance, and past conditioning, and make a mess. Great question. Thanks. Let me see. I will make these promises. I should write them down. Don't have a pencil right here. I'm going to look for, I have a couple of guided forgiveness meditations. Oh, there's one on the website. If you went to portlandinsight.org and then to teachings and then guided meditations, go to the second one from the bottom is a video of a guided forgiveness meditation. And I'll see if I can find another one too. Every retreat I do one.
Robert, I hope I don't unduly complicate all of this. It's Dave Mayer.
Hi, David.
Sounds like the universe and you all are speaking to me today. I, as you may recall, have deep-seated early childhood anxiety built into my system, and I live in panic. And I've come to realize recently just how thoroughgoing that panic is, and so a lot of my meditation is separating, or turning around and looking, as you suggest, turning around and looking and walking into it, and have been doing a lot of intense, deep work, including psychedelic therapy, in taming that really frightened infant. And I'm now in the midst of a situation where the woman that I deeply love has had it with my, as she say, the ghosts of my parents. She has a stepdaughter, whom I used to get along with extremely well, but she's become herself deep problems, and my wife has had to spend a great deal of time and a lot of our resources on caring for her, which has stirred up my anxiety, and it's an intractable problem. I was up at 4 a.m, deeply going into your forgiveness meditation from the 2015 Nelson retreat, and it was wonderful, it got me back to sleep until I woke up and the anxiety blossomed. And so I'm sitting here trying to make the space for everything and forgive myself for these issues.